If you're a big HOA or a big condo, I'm sure I'll get heat for this, but you shouldn't be self-managed. That's just the truth. There's so many changes going on. You could be missing out on a lot.
Hello, everyone. So today we're going to talk about HOA meetings and how we can make them not as painful as they are right now. And for that, we have Rafael from Affinity. Rafael, please introduce yourself. You do better job than me.
Thank you. So my name's Rafael Aquino. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Affinity Management Services. We're a community association management company. We basically help community association leaders execute their vision. So we help board members get to that vision that they were wanting to realize. And how we do it is through our proven process: align, execute, deliver. We've been doing it now for close to 18 years. We manage around 79 associations, close to almost 30,000 doors. So roughly about 60,000 plus residents. So been doing it for some time here in South Florida, and excited to talk about this topic because I know it could be frustrating for many, but in reality, it doesn't necessarily have to be, as long as you're taking a proactive / predictive approach.
Beautiful. So can you tell me why they are so painful sometimes, or why they can feel so painful sometimes, the
board meetings? Yeah, so I would say, when they feel painful, many times it's either a lack of preparation. In some cases, when they're the hardest, I would say, is when you're having to ask for more money. Whenever you're having a budget challenge, or you have a big project and there isn't enough money, or in some cases something occurred that there was no way of predicting that it would occur, and you need to ask for more money. That's when it becomes the most challenging, because residents don't get the grasp that things can happen, that you're running a business. In my experience, that's where you have the most challenges, is when you're going to ask for money. Can meetings still get out of control in other instances? 100%. Many times when you're passing either new rules or big projects that people may not agree with, you're going to have the room filled. However, the way we like to approach it is, just taking more of a predictive approach rather than, still proactive, but predictive. I mean, in the sense that if you're working with a management company, you already know you're going to have challenges if you're passing a special assessment or you're asking for more money. So it's more of taking an approach of communicating. If you know you're going to pass a special assessment, you're going to ask for more money for a project, don't just all of a sudden send a notice, hey, by the way, I need to pass a special assessment for $100,000 and your portion is 10. How's a resident going to react? Think about it as if you were in their shoes. So it's more of, okay, we're looking like we're in a tough situation. Let's send some notices of what we're looking at, what the challenges are. If it's of a big figure amount, hold town halls, and you're still going to have a big attendance. But little by little, you start to provide the information, give them understanding of why it's happening, and really communicating well. Sometimes it's inevitable, but at least if you're taking the necessary steps, then it'll feel a little bit less overwhelming. And by the way, it can happen too in elections, which those can be very contentious as well. So,
what are some tips that you may have for board members to do before, during, and after the meeting, so that they can create cadence, or they can create some order, or more manageable meetings?
Sure. Great question. So let's talk about a budget one, right? Because that's the one that normally you would probably get the highest attendance. Ideally, if you're going to do any kind of pre-communication prior to the approval of it, is what I would recommend. And when you're hosting these meetings, don't think of just hosting the meeting. Bring in whatever professionals that are impacted. So as an example, let's use a condo, right? If you're going through, you need to pass the structural integrity, you need to increase the reserves, bring in an expert. Have an expert come in, have the expert be prepared with a PowerPoint presentation explaining, okay, this is where you were, this is where you're at, this is why we need to do this. Allow it to be a bit of a Q&A. So let residents know we're going to host a town hall to answer questions, because we're looking at a special assessment or a budget increase of 30%. So if you could send us the questions beforehand, we can prepare. The day of, I would say, is from a management team perspective, if you're going to see a high attendance, is ask the management company to bring in support staff. So in some instances, as an example, when we've had to pass these large reserves, we'll bring in 2, 3, maybe 4 team members to help in welcoming residents. So, getting that interaction of when they first come in, making it feel as welcoming as possible. Have simple things, donuts, bagels, whatever fits the culture of your community, right? You may have a very healthy community, so let's do carrots and celery sticks, whatever it may be, but have something there so that you're giving that breaking bread component where people are able to eat, have a drink, have a little small conversation first, and then get into the meeting. But it's just being very well prepared and putting yourself in their shoes, which technically as a board, you really are in their shoes because you're a resident, and just providing facts. I think if you provide facts, you'll still get pushback because people never want to pay more, but you're going to see that the residents that start to understand, okay, I see where this is coming from, I see why this is happening, they'll start to appreciate that pre-work that you did and the communication that you did. You're still going to have that 1 or 2 that are going to make the outburst, but just hear them out, and you don't need to interact into those outbursts. Just hear them out, appreciate them for their comments, and continue to move on with your presentation or with the discussion that's occurring.
And is there anything that they could do after?
Great. Yeah, great point. Should have touched on that. So then after if you're going to share, it all depends on what the communication is maybe sharing the slide, providing a quick recap. Because remember, not everyone's going to attend the meeting either. And last thing you want as a manager or as a board is for individuals to start saying what occurred in that meeting. You should be able to set that tone by communicating to the residents saying, hey, we had this meeting, this was a budget increase, this is why we increased those fees and so forth. Some associations are very tech forward, so they record the meetings. They put them up on the website. That's definitely an option. Just got to be cautious if nothing from legal terms is not placed on it. But yes, there's definitely a lot that could be done in the sense of, making sure you have a high level of communication.
That was going to be one of my questions. Is it legal? Is it okay to record these meetings?
100%. Yeah. So both residents can record it. You can't restrict. Some board members think, you can't record this meeting. As a resident, you have a right to record the meeting. What the board has the ability of doing is saying, okay, they can create a rule to say that you can only record from the left side section of the room, but they do have the ability to record the meeting.
And then the first time I went to one of the meetings, it was like, we don't have quorum. A lot of people don't really understand what that is. Can you
Yeah. So the quorum requirements, there's 2 quorum requirements, both for condos and HOAs. You have a quorum requirement for the membership. So there's certain meetings that require a membership vote or a quorum of members to be there in order for the meeting to be conducted. Some of those meetings could be annual meetings, or elections are important, which election has a different quorum, so I don't want to confuse the listeners. But you have a members quorum, and then you have a board quorum. So most board of directors meeting, all they need is a board quorum. So what that means is, in most documents, is that you have a majority of the board present at the meeting. So if you have 5 board members, you need 3 present in order to host the meeting. When you're voting down reserves, you have to check your documents, but in most associations, you need a majority of the members to vote it down. Structural integrities, you can no longer vote it down, but regular reserves, you could still vote it down, but you need a majority of the members. So that means that they have to be either present at the meeting, or they have to have a proxy, which allows someone else to vote on their behalf. So that's where it can get a little bit complex. And then lastly, I'll say it just because I mentioned it a little bit earlier, it has to do with the voting. So if you're in a condo, in order to have a valid election, you need 20% of the membership to vote for the condos. That's clear in statute. For HOAs, it depends on what the documents state. Most documents state 33% of the members need to vote in order to have an election. But in your HOA documents, you need to work with your association attorney. And in reality, you should work with your association attorney in getting the quorum requirements for both condos and HOAs.
And what happens if there's not enough quorum? Is it...
Yeah, good question. So, with the reserves is where it gets complicated. Prior to the structural integrity reserve, so you needed a majority of those board residents, to be there or to have a proxy. If they weren't there, you didn't have the vote, then what happens in a reserve vote is the reserve, fully funded reserves happen. There's no way around it. You didn't get the vote to vote it down. What happens in an election, if you didn't have a quorum, which happens a lot with the large HOAs, because some of them, imagine 10,000 units and it's 33% requirement. That's 3,300 votes that you need. So if those individuals didn't show up or proxies weren't there, the same board rolls over for the following year. So you'll find in large HOAs or large condo associations, if they don't have electronic voting, which is what we highly recommend, you'll find that board remains the same. And that can be a challenge if you have a board that you don't like, or you like a board that's not taking the direction of the community. So one of the ways to solve that is by, getting electronic voting. However, the board does have to approve it. It's unfortunate, and no one says this out loud, but I think it is important because we spend a lot of time educating, is that you'll get some boards that don't want electronic voting. And
because they want to stay.
They want to stay in power. That's right. So it's unfortunate as a management company. We have no control over it. Many times it's like, oh, you guys don't want the electronic voting because you don't want someone else to cancel your contract. You're buddies with the board. That's not necessarily the case. To be honest, it's more work for us because that means the night of the meeting, you have to count all those ballots. You have to confirm all of those ballots. If it's done electronically, there's several platforms that take care of that heavy load on behalf of the management company, on behalf of the board, if you're self-managed. So that's not necessarily the case. I'm sure if you ask most management companies, they're promoting the associations to have electronic voting.
Can you tell people how they can get electronic voting or something? How can people
Sure.
start doing?
We'll be happy to share the providers that we work with. They can reach out to us, managedbyaffinity.com. I can also maybe drop the link at the bottom for how to reach us, and we can provide those vendors. But yeah, electronic voting makes our lives much easier. And more than just voting, you could use that tool to take surveys of the community, to get a pulse of what's going on within the community, of making amendments in your documents. So there's so many things that you could address with the voting online outside of just trying to get the quorum requirements and dealing with annual meetings.
Very interesting. Mm-hmm. All this behind the scenes stuff. So how can people make these meetings more productive? I'm sure people go in and sometimes some disruptive members can take over the meeting. Yeah. So what have you learned throughout your career to ease this pain?
Great question. And I think that's where a good partner comes in with, especially the manager. If you're a professionally managed, or even if you have an on-site manager, it's in order to make it productive, you have to start no different than running a business is from the top. So the top being at an association level, even if you have a management company, it's making sure that the manager has a good report put together. So what that means is that you're putting all the facts, or all the, number one, what does that agenda look like? Okay, so what are we going to discuss? Do you have all the talking points or all the information ready for the board of directors in order for them to review it prior to the meeting? So a good pro tip would be is that at least 72 hours, or let's say 24 business hours before the meeting, the board receives a package, the agenda, the talking points. If there's proposals, you have the proposals in there. You give them a synopsis of what to review. And that way, if they have any questions, they can have sent an email, hey, I'd like a further clarification on this. A good board would already have a decision somewhat made, or questions already asked prior to that meeting. So really, when you're getting to that meeting, you're there just to ask a couple more questions. Some boards open it up to the floor. That can be dangerous depending on your association, but they're already ready to make a decision. So that will help because it shows to the residents that the board is very well prepared. So a big part of that does have to come from your manager, from your management team, in having that information prepared. That also means that the board has a responsibility as well as to give the manager time to do that. So many times, or in certain situations, I should say, the board will say, I need a proposal. We have a board meeting next week. I need a proposal from 3 companies for this. That doesn't give the manager time to prepare. They may be able to get the proposal if they're connected, but it's a rush. You're not going to get a good reporting. Then if you get the proposals, it's going to be all over the place. The board's not going to get them in time. So you have to give the manager time to prepare.
What is
those
a
packages.
reasonable time to prepare for you?
So I would say have your board meetings already pre-scheduled. So what that means is you should have your meetings already scheduled for the entire year. We host our meetings, if it's every month, on the third Wednesday at 7:30 p.m. every single month. That way, your manager can set off a cutoff time. So 2 weeks before the meeting, any new requests that the board requests are not going to make it to this agenda, because that gives the manager time to put together whatever's necessary for the next meeting. And also, that way the residents know when meetings are going to occur, and it creates a constant cadence, like you were saying a little bit earlier, of what to expect.
Great tips. Great tips. You mentioned at the beginning, one of the things that you repeat, or it's part of like your core message, is like that signature methodology that you have.
Yeah, proven process, yes.
So tell me a little bit about that, just as a way of giving us perspective on how you guys work.
Sure. Yeah, so the way we try to manage our associations is no different than the way we manage our business. So at Affinity, we use Entrepreneur Operating System, EOS. Came from a great book by Gino Wickman, Traction. So we apply those concepts in our business. So right now, we're flowing those similar concepts down to our association. So our proven process is align, execute, deliver. So with the first step, which is align, is what we're trying to do is really align to the board's vision. What we've noticed within the market, what occurs a lot is that the board just doesn't feel like things are getting done. And many times they don't feel like things are getting done because they're just doing a little bit of everything. They're chasing what I call chasing rabbits. You can't chase two rabbits at the same time. You just can't. It's impossible. So what we're trying to do is, in business, you outline a 3, 5, and 10-year plan. For associations, that's just too far out. We try to outline a 1 to 2 year plan. What does that look like? What are your goals? What would success look like in a year from now for your association? From there, we work backwards and we say, okay, what are the quarterly milestones? What are the quarterly, what we call rocks or goals, in order to get to that objective? So then that way, the manager has clear direction on what they need to do. And on a weekly basis, they're reporting back to the board of, okay, am I on track? Am I off track? Why am I off track if I'm off track? And then that way, the board also knows what's the expectation, because that's where they quickly realize that where the manager gets pulled left and right. Oh, I need you to do this. I need you to do that. No problem. I can do that. But then does that mean that I put this other project
what is the
initially
priority?
had on hold? And what I like to say is high priority, high impact. What's of high priority? What's of high impact? And that's where the focus and the energy needs to be. Is that always the case that it goes that way? No, I'll be honest with you, because sometimes the boards are not 100% aligned. But that's where we try to facilitate and we try to support and guide. That's really what we are. We're third parties. We don't make decisions on their behalf because they could change. They could change. Hey, we want to go from here to there, change direction and shift. Or I want to pivot. I want to go here. Okay, that's fine. Let's set that aside, but let's be clear that that's what we set aside. And then next we go into our execute. So once we have a clear vision, then we want to make sure that we're on track for that vision. So on the execute side is one thing that we do is we're doing quarterly check-ins with our clients. So recently this past month, we're beta testing quarterly reviews with our clients. So we're sending surveys. How is our team performing? We're also checking quarterly with the board on that vision. Okay, we're 90 days in. This is where we're at. How are we performing? What's working? What's not working? It's the same thing we're doing with our staff. Our staff is what really makes Affinity. It's not, while us as the leaders within the organization, we drive strategy and provide input, but ultimately it's the team and the boots on the ground that make things happen within our association. So we're checking in with them, checking their pulse. Like, where are they? Are they meeting? Are they aligned with the company's values? Do they get it, want it, have the capacity? And then where are they with the goals for the association? That way we know if we're aligned with our boards, we're aligned with our team members, then we're going to get to that vision. However, if we have a gap in one of those two, we're going to have challenges. And what we need to do is just talk about them. We need to have an open and honest conversation of, is there a boundary issue? Is there a timeline issue? Is there an expectation issue? Do we have a capacity issue within the association that we don't have enough staff to be able to execute that vision that you have? So it's really having that honest conversation with the board of directors. And then our last component is our deliver. So, we're proud to say that we're one of the only organizations that guarantee our work. So we provide financial guarantees. So if financials are not turned in on time, we'll provide a guarantee. We'll provide a guarantee that we're supporting your on-site manager, not leaving them there by themselves. So there's monetary impacts to us if we don't deliver that. And then we're at the moment actually outlining 2 other guarantees of how we're going to help save our associations money as well, that if we don't, then we'll be on the hook, because we have a big responsibility in supporting them and trying to keep costs as low as we can. We can't always keep them low. We have, tariffs, inflation, interest rates, everything hitting us all at the same time. But ultimately, if there's ways that we can bring work internally, like do it with the internal crew, then we'll do our part to support them there.
And I only ask that because I feel like having a clear vision is what actually makes or breaks this meetings that we have, like understanding how you guys have a methodology to carry that forward to help people understand. Going back to the meetings, do you have any tips to help de-escalate when, trouble moments, when things come, like some people sometimes feel personally attacked, or how do you guys handle that?
Yeah, sure. So that's great. I mean, that really never happens. Yeah, right. So there's one tool that we've been using ever since the tool came out, which has to use ChatGPT as well as, Copilot within Microsoft Office. So AI, for those that don't know those products. So we utilize AI really to be able to communicate in an empathetic way. So we tell our team members at Affinity, at least when it comes in via email, is don't take this stuff personal. You don't know what's happening on the other side of that email, the other side of the computer, whoever they sent it. And it's honestly very easy to be a bully in writing. It just is. So it's just, we're utilizing AI to, number one, prompt when we're responding to respond in an empathetic way, to respond in an understanding and caring way, and in some cases in a very direct way, so that tool has helped us because ultimately what most of the times, I would say 95% of the time, people just want to be heard. That's what it boils down to. When it comes to the one-on-one human interaction, it sounds cliche-ish, but it's just listening, just understanding and repeating back to them what they said. So as an example, if they're upset about something, just take a pause. This is what I'm hearing. Is what I'm hearing correct? Is that I'm hearing that you're frustrated about A, B, C? And they may tell you, no, that's not actually what I'm frustrated. I'm frustrated about this. And then readdress. Okay, so what I'm hearing is this. Yeah, that's actually. And sometimes what you're going to find is what they initially told you is not the root cause of what the problem is. So easier said than done, just being fully transparent. But when you apply some of these simple concepts of just hearing them and then understanding them and providing, you don't always have to provide our solution. Many times people feel like I have to give them an answer because if I don't give them an answer, no, sometimes you don't have the answer. Look, I understood what you said. Let me take note of it. Let me get back to you. What you do need to do is that when you say you're going to get back to them is make sure that if you said I'm going to get back to you by Tuesday, that by Tuesday you're giving them a response, because you need to be accountable, because then you lose trust and credibility in what you said. So I think what you asked, that question of tips, it's the hardest part of the industry, because what people lose sight of is it's not too often that people are coming saying, thank you for the great work that you're doing.
That's true.
That's just the truth. And I tell my managers, we're not the only industry, because everyone feels, it's only our industry. That's not necessarily true. It happens to waiters. It happens to go to an airport, right? No one's ever there thanking the agent for helping them do the luggage. They're complaining about something. So it happens in many industries. So it's just really providing that training, that support, understanding, and more than anything else is giving your managers also an opportunity to let that information out. So we do have weekly meetings where we touch base with our team.
What I have found when I've going to these meetings is a lot of people think that the board members are paid members.
They're not supposed to be.
if they are in the right organization and integrity is at the core of that organization, is there a way to add language to your voluntary board of directors, like to let people know? I feel like there's a disservice when people think that people are getting paid and they get like, you get paid for this, you haven't done it. And they're like, no, wait, there's some reason. They don't believe that. Do you guys often find yourself in that?
Yeah, I think what our board members find more than anything else is it's when we come into a new community, because when we come into a new community, one thing we want to start doing very quickly, pretty much the first week, is communicating with the residents on a weekly basis. And the reason being is it's not rocket science. It's not anything special. But what it does show the residents is that there's work being done. And some managers go a little bit over the top where the reports are 12 pages, 13 pages dense. That's not what the residents want to see. Maybe a manager's report for the board, that's different because there's a lot that goes on. But it's really communicating with the residents so that they can take appreciation to the work that's being done. With regards to getting paid, that doesn't exist in our industry. They're not allowed to be paid. I'm sure we would get more board members if they would get paid. Last year there were talks of giving some kind of credit or whatever, having legislation of them do something like that. But the truth is that they're not paid. So
it's a nonprofit.
It's nonprofit. There's no way of them. They're not getting paid. From our experience, I think we were talking about it offline. Is normally who you find as board members is civil leaders, people that are in some kind of compliance role, entrepreneurs that have either some kind of experience. Not too many entrepreneurs because they have businesses they're growing, but someone that's in a compliance field, CPAs, you find as board members. So people that are trying to give back, that where they have skill sets that the association could utilize. When you have those kind of professionals, there's pros and cons to that as well. But ultimately, I think as a board, the responsibility is to just have a strong communication cadence and pattern. It should really come from your management team, and that way the residents know what's going on.
And ultimately, I think the outcome of all of these things is to create a well-lived community, which is your tagline. Mm-hmm. What are things that HOAs can do to create that type of atmosphere, to foster that well-lived community? Are there things that you guys do to integrate? Like, what would you say?
Sure. Number one, the first step before I get into what I believe helps create it is that there has to be good unity between the management team and the board. Sometimes the approach that certain board members can take is that, it's like management team is the enemy, and that's not necessarily the case. We're a unit, we're there to work together. Can we disagree on things? 100%. That's very normal. There are certain things that we're going to disagree, and you may want to do certain things one way, and we recommend another way. As long as they're not illegal or breaking statute, we'll work with the board because ultimately we work for them. So if we have that strong partnership, the next component comes much easier, which that is bringing some type of lifestyle component into the community. And what that means is, bringing the community together as a whole. I've said it in multiple of the episodes, and I say it throughout the videos that we do weekly, is just keeping in mind that these are your neighbors. People move into a community for a sense of community, right? So when you tell the board members of this, some board members are hesitant because I don't want to bring the community together because they're going to create a WhatsApp group. So you're looking at this the wrong way. What you want is you want to bring the residents together, and it doesn't have to cost that much money. Many times they're like, oh, well, we don't have money to bring in a food truck. We don't have money to do a big event. We don't have a clubhouse to do a big event. Well, you're wrong. We've done a ton of events for our communities that have, in some instances, have cost less than $150. Wow. You go to the dollar store. I'll give you an example. We have an amazing team member. Her name is Ligia. And she's done a phenomenal job putting together some of these events for some of the communities that are a bit tight on their budget, but they're really nice HOA or a nice condo. And she went to the dollar store, bought, I think it was like 40 or 50 turkeys that It came already with the paint and little wooden plaque. And she put together a flyer that was no cost on Canva, used some AI to put it together, blasted it to the community. The first event, they have 15 kids there. And then, not a big showing for a community of 250, but I can tell you by the second event, there were 40. By the third event, there were 50. And the board was like, wow, we did this on $150, and they're amazed. So I think that's where you start to bring the community together, and then that's where you can really start, I don't want to say pitching, but you could start explaining to the residents, look, this is our vision, or you can introduce yourself as a board member and just introduce, again, bringing that human component to it. And this is what we're doing to try to have a well-lived community, like what we like to say at Affinity. Now, we have associations that have big budgets, that they do fireworks shows and the whole nine. But in reality, start small. You don't need anything big. And for what it's worth, for our listeners, we're glad to share some of the tips and tricks that we have for putting together a lifestyle event. So either hit that QR code or the link below, and we'll be happy to provide that information.
That's awesome, because that creates that environment that
that
they're
momentum.
looking for. Yeah.
That's right.
And that has dividends to pay. Like the community, people are more kinder to each other.
Right.
So I love that you mentioned that.
An important point is that, as well, is that you're going to get so much support that you never thought you would get. Because when the rumors happen, because rumors do happen, oh, they're doing this, or I got a violation, right, for painting my house. I can't believe the management's doing that. That neighbor that went to the party, I can almost promise you that neighbor's going to say, no, they're doing good. Like, have you seen the reports that they email us? Look at the improvements that we had. Did you go to that last event? No, I didn't. So all of a sudden, you have an army of individuals really supporting the initiatives, which, as we said earlier, they're, number one, not paid for what they do, and they're very underappreciated. So part of what we feel at Affinity is that we need to be able to have their back. And the way we have their back is for them to be able to gain some appreciation through those events.
Which is awesome. So tell me a little bit about when people self-manage, that's all on their hands. Mm-hmm. But when they have a team of people like Affinity, how do you guys help them? What type of workload do you guys take away from the board?
Yeah. No, the self-manage, I think it's becoming less and less communities. We see a lot more phone calls from self-managed communities. And honestly, if you're a big HOA or a big condo, I'm sure I'll get heat for this, but you shouldn't be self-managed. That's just the truth. There's so many changes going on with legislation, so much going on, so many moving parts, that if you're not up to speed, even though there is a big component now, the educational component, you could be missing out on a lot. And one specific example is we had an association that we took on, I think it was about 7 months ago, that was self-managed. And when we started to look at the staff, I mean, they were completely overstaffed. I mean, this was a big staff. In all fairness, it was close to 40 people. They were overstaffed by 4 people. They had no idea. Why? Because there were no data components of understanding, okay, who does what when they need to do it. They didn't understand of, okay, what's the preventative maintenance that's happening within the equipment, within the assets, or what we call the assets, so like the air conditioning and so forth. So when we came in, they thought, well, you guys are going to cost us X amount because we charge a percentage over the staff. And when we looked at their budget, we provided them, like was mentioned earlier with the deliver portion, we provided them a guarantee. We guarantee we're going to save you. In that case, it was $100,000. If I don't save it, I'll give you a refund. So they quickly saw, oh, wow, it was overstaffed. And it wasn't us just to reduce the staff to get ourselves in there. It was just evident they weren't running an efficient operation. You know, they had people still filing away paper. Why do you have someone filing paper when everything nowadays is pretty much digital?
Instead of paying a salary, you could pay
that's right. So
$20 per month
that's
fee.
That's completely right. So in this particular association, what we did is it needed more preventative maintenance. So instead of having that person, instead of having 4 people, we only need to hire 1. And what we did is with the savings of that salary, we hired a painter. Because the association needed someone to upkeep, the clubhouse and the large components that they had, because it's a large HOA with a big staff.
That sounds really cool. That you guys actually offer specific guarantees to show you're going to optimize your systems. You're going to get more results. You're actually going to get value from having support, and you don't have to do it alone, and we know the contacts, and we can get you in. So
that's right. And the way I like to look at it as well, Diana, is that we're equally as invested. My decision and my business partner, Pedro, has been not to be the biggest in the market. And that decision is a strategic decision. It was made because we want to work with a select few of associations. We want to work with the right partners. Because if we have the right partners, we're willing to invest in you as much as you're investing in us. And we realize in the market that it's just a lot of it is one way. Okay, it's us. But in reality, if we want a long partnership with an association, if they're invested in us, trust me that we're going to invest in you. And we invest in you by saying, if we're going to deliver on this and we don't, we have a consequence. No different than you selecting us and we don't deliver, you have a consequence because you're going to have to make another change. So that's the way that we look at it.
Yeah, and those changes can be...
Oh, man, those changes can be overwhelming for many board members. Yeah, many...
I think a lot of board members are scared of the transition period. Yeah, that's like a debilitating part because it's like the saying in Spanish, mejor malo conocido que bueno por conocer. Like, it's better to know the bad...
It's better to know who you know. Yeah, then, yep. I totally forgot I'm on a brain fart right now, but yes, I know exactly what you mean.
But the translation is better to know the bad than to try to find out the new because you really don't know. So what would you say to someone that is in that position?
Look, if you're in that position, it's going to be biased because I own a management company, but the truth is that if you're in that position, you need to make a change. There's no if, ands, or but because, again, we've been talking about not getting paid. So you don't get paid for this, so why are you going to keep going through that pain? But before you rush into it, don't take too long doing this. But number one, something must be working, because you can't take the approach that nothing works with the organization. There has to be something. Jot that down, whether it be 1 point. Jot that down. What worked?
Yeah.
And then what didn't work? What didn't work? So that when you're interviewing with the next firm, okay, this is what I'm looking for. And I can't tell you how many times we get an RFP because there must be some template of RFP out on the web because we're getting these common RFPs.
What are RFPs?
RFP, a request for proposal. So answer all these questions. And then when we meet with them, we're actually in the process of if we don't get an opportunity to meet with the client, to meet with them for us to understand if they're a fit for us, we won't even bid. Why? Because I need to understand where you want to get to. Because I can't solve every single problem for every single association. And that's why we work with select associations. So I want to know. So you don't need to have a list of 100 questions. Maybe if you want to ask particulars, yes, but first start off with, these are my pain points. And deep pain points, not, I don't get support. What does support mean? My regional doesn't come by the property. Okay, how many times would you like your regional to come? X amount of times. Okay. Proposals are not given to me on time. What are your expectations with proposals? Is it 1 day? Is it 3 days, 7 days, 10 days, 15 days? What are the big pain points that you've had, and be very crystal clear on it, and give whoever you're going to consider an opportunity to sit with you as a board. I can tell you from the day of this recording, we didn't bid on 2 properties because they didn't want to give us a time of day to meet with them because we wanted to understand their vision. They wanted us to first fill out a 30-page document, and I go, hold on a second. I know I can deliver on this, but what value are you going to get from me just answering yes, 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 yes throughout it? You're not going to get any value. What you should be looking for is, what are the challenges that I've had, and how are you going to help me solve those challenges? Those RFPs never truly ask that question. They're asking, what accounts payable system do you use? Is that really your problem of why you're making a chance? Because I can tell you who we compete with is the bigger guys, and we all use similar systems. So that's not the real problem that you're having. If that's a problem you're having, then I respect it. But most of the times, that's not the problem.
There's a deeper layer.
There's a deeper layer to the problem. And if you don't answer that question, and you don't have that question outlined from the beginning, you're going to find yourself in exactly the same situation come a year, 2 years, whatever it may be. So the simple answer to it is just get together the 4 to 5 points. And what are you looking for a company? Are you looking for the biggest in the market? That's okay. They may do a good job for you. That's okay. Are you looking for the smallest? That's okay too. Are you looking for a medium size, and why? Understand the why you're making these decisions. Because sometimes just working with the biggest isn't the right decision for you. Sometimes you need someone more in the middle of the market that can give you that attention, that can walk you through the process, and you don't feel that you have to touch a ton of hierarchy, a ton of people in order to get to the top. So again, that's why there's different companies for different associations. And in South Florida, honestly, there's enough business to go around.
Everyone,
and that's why I'm pretty friendly with my competitors. Like there's enough business to go around.
It's a mindset of abundance. And ultimately, what I'm hearing you say is, if you want someone to treat you like a transaction, then go at it with the energy of a transaction.
I love that, Diana. I'm taking that.
Because if you want someone to give you their full attention and to hear you, and if the problem is that you feel like a number, don't just ask for a number.
That's right.
You're stealing that one too?
Yeah.
And I say it because as a business, I am a homeowner, and that's why we're having this conversation. But as a business owner, I totally can relate to that. Like just asking if the price is right, but the price could be $1. Is it worth it for you? Like, is it going to add value to you? Is it going to help you? And I think that approach is very much meeting people in the same value system.
Yep. And one thing that gets missed a lot, I know we ask the question all the time, and I hope I'm not giving away too much of our secret sauce, but it's how much time a board member is putting into things. And you'd be amazed, if you see a board putting any more than, I'd say on average, I would say if you're a board member, an hour to 3 hours is what you should kind of consider. Sometimes
day?
No. Sometimes that's about a week. I would say.
Okay, I'm like.
No, I would say roughly about a week. If you're putting about 5 hours, you're gonna have to answer emails. You're gonna have to go back and forth. But you have some board members that are putting in almost as a part-time job, 20 hours a week. And if you're doing that, are you valuing your time? That's the question I'll ask. If you're putting 20 hours a week, imagine if you're retired, what was your going rate at that time? And multiply that times 52 weeks a year. Is it really worth saving $5,000, whatever the number may be, or getting the right partner that's going to take that load off you? I always tell board members, there's no way we can take away everything off your plate, because you have to answer some emails. We need your approvals with things. There's big decisions. You have to go to board meetings. So if you're putting in 10, 15 hours a week, 10, 15 hours a month, and that's normal, because a board meeting will be about 2 hours. Just that alone is 20% of that time. And it all depends on your association as well, of how big your projects are and so forth. But if you're putting in 20 hours a week, you have a big problem. You have a bigger problem.
That's a part-time job.
And that's a part-time job. And again, you're not being paid for it.
And you're not getting paid for it. Yeah. Dear Lord, oh my goodness. So this was very insightful. We went from, having a painful meeting to navigating how to improve it, navigating tips and tricks. Dear Lord.
You got it right.
But ultimately, how do you find a good partner to help you navigate all of these things? So I hope people got a ton of value from this conversation. I don't know if you have any closing recommendations for the audience, anything that I might not have asked that you think is important for them to know.
No, I think what's important is having an empathetic approach when it comes to being a board member. Understanding that whether you have a manager or a management company, hopefully a management company, that you have to that they're working with you, that they're part of your team, they're not on the other side. So it's important to treat all the team members as well at the property with the same level of respect. If there's issues, then let's just have a sit down and discuss what those issues are. How do we iron it out? Is there a way to ensure that this doesn't occur again? But really conducting yourselves in an empathetic and professional way. And I feel that you'll get more from those team members and from those individuals. As the saying goes, you get much more with honey than you get with vinegar. So it's no different when we're dealing with people. Ultimately, we're in a people's business. So it's important to have that human component and not let the outside noise drive what goes on within your community, because you're a leader. And as a leader, you need to be compassionate and understanding in order for your objectives to get done. So that's pretty much it.
Yeah, and ultimately, at the end of the day, there is a way to create a well-lived community. And it doesn't have to cost an arm and a leg.
It does not. It does not.
So thank you so much
No
for
problem.
this
Thank
time.
you. Thank you for having me on, and it's always great to be on. Provide this information. It's what we love to do here at Affinity.
Beautiful. So where can people get more of Affinity?
Sure. To reach us, go to our website, managedbyaffinity.com. Also, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel as we have weekly videos, and we'll see you on the next show.
And remember, if you have any recommendations about topics, things that you would like us to cover in these conversations, please write them down. We would love to know what is important to you and your community. All right? Thank you, and see you on the next one.